Today, we're going to talk about contractors and designers and renovations and who does what and all that good stuff. So,
Man, it's so confusing. It can be so confusing,
yeah,
even as a designer,
yes.
because, there's lots of different ways of doing it right.
Yeah, I know I have my preferences.
We got preferences here. We definitely got preferences. Yeah.
Yeah, so my experience with custom building or doing large renovations is I for the most part, my clients don't have the contractor put allowances in for
Right.
certain things like tiles and cabinets and countertops
Mhm.
because they want to pick out what they want. So luckily for me, that kind of all goes through us separately. And then the contractor just gives them a bid for all the actual labor
Mhm.
and doesn't include the materials, which is what I prefer.
Yeah. I mean, that makes it easier because then you're not stuck when the contractor's giving what's it called allowances. He's thinking about his vendors and who he uses, which aren't always in alignment with the people that I use. I mean, not that they're bad or anything. It's just that I haven't built those relationships, especially if it's with that contractor. So I haven't built the relationship with his vendor.
And most of the times it'll be a lower price product.
Well, contractors are going for builder grade because that's
Right.
what they know.
Right, for
And
the most part, unless they say, like, low or a mid-range or a
right.
high range, like, they can break it down in that way, but the designer is really the one that's gonna know what you want, and so we'll be able to give you the accurate cost of what you need to spend.
Right. And what I found that happens sometimes is that I'm not the first person on the project. They've already talked to a contractor. So the contractor's given them a cost. And so then they bring me on and they're like, well, there's overlap because most likely the contractor has said, well, this is going to cost XYZ and give allowances, etc. So then we have to break that down to, okay, when I give you my costs, I'm assuming that most of the purchasing will go through me. That just allows me to have more control on it, and I can track it, I can do all the logistics on it, but also when there is a problem, because there will be a problem,
Definitely is always a problem.
and there's always a problem, we hate that, but there always something comes
It's
up.
just the reality of construction.
Right. When there's a problem, they come back to me. So, I'm doing a kitchen right now, and even though, you know, the issues are really the contractors, because I didn't hire the contractor, I came in on the job. Who are they going to? They're going to me.
Yep.
And, it's way easier to have control over it. Where's the where are the deliveries? How we need extra. We want to change this. Yada yada.
I like to be in charge of the product as well, so I know, like, I order the plumbing fixtures and the tiles, and I know when it's coming, I know how much is getting ordered, and again, if there is a problem and we need to get more of something, then we handle that
Right.
and not leave it up to the contractor.
Right. Exactly. I mean, the contractor's instrumental because, and that this is the other problem then is that when I'm not working with my contractor, and I'm happy to work with my client's contractors, but when I'm not, when I don't have a relationship with the contractor, like, a good example is and happens, is I'll send the tile over to and I've, estimated what we need, but, what I estimate versus what actually gets used, especially when the tiler is installing the tiler. So he has a much better idea on cuts, how it's gonna, work. Because once you cut that tile, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can use that the rest of the tile. And so if you're short because you've cut there are too many cuts on the tile, then so I leave that to the contractor to get it his pound, but then in the issue that they don't, it's like, "What the heck?" It's like, "Oh, no, it's fine, it looks good." I'm like, "But is
Well,
there enough?" And then inevitably, they're short.
yeah. Well, when I do any job with tile, I have the contractor estimate how many square feet we need. I have the vendor I'm buying the tile from estimate, and then I do my own
Right.
calculation. I get 3
Exactly.
calculations.
Exactly.
Yes.
But, when you get into a different what I find is that when you get into a more complex pattern,
Yeah.
my
Mm.
calculations are not as good
Yeah,
because
listen, I've had that happen all the time where we need to get more tile. and you just gotta get it, you
Well, I
know?
mean, you just gotta get it, but now that is one thing that it's not and hope that they have it, hope that it comes from the same dye lot, because that's the that can be a problem.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's why over ordering is always a good idea. I would rather have
Absolutely.
extra than not enough, and I tell clients that too, like, we always have to make sure we're ordering at least
Yeah.
the standard is 10%, but to spend it but depending on the pattern and what it is, I'll do 15%.
Yeah.
That's just to be safe, that's what we need to
Mhm.
do. It comes
Yeah.
with the cost of building, I mean, honestly.
Well, and, it feels terrible to then come back and have, like, 4 boxes of tile, unnecessary, especially when it's special order, you can't return it. But the alternative the alternative is now everything is on hold because you're 4 weeks out for that tile because you're you know, I try not to specify the 3 by 6 subway tiles that any Tom, Dick, and go and get because that you're not utilizing my services by doing that, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, there can be some frustration between I mean, and does it have to be frustrating? I don't know. Like it's
It's
just
not
this
frustrating
communication.
for me because I just say what it is, like, this is the
Right.
process, this is what we have to do because what and then have to follow the process.
Right. It's
Otherwise, it will be stressful.
well, and that's the
And
frustrating part.
from experience and from doing this for so long,
Yeah,
we can't anticipate all the problems that are gonna happen, and it's our responsibility to do everything we can to avoid those
mitigate
issues.
that. Absolutely. We definitely I mean, that's our big goal is, because the design I found, and I was thinking about this the other day, the design part is all up front for the most part. You make all the decisions, and then at least I make all like 80% of the decisions, and then before my initial design presentation. I mean, and then I'm fleshing out other details after that if the clients approve the design and, are okay, and they usually are with about 80% of my selections, and they'll be like, "Well, could you just show me one more bar stool, or could I see a couple more options for, X, Y, or Z?" Not everything, but there'll be 1 or 2 things, and so already the design is done, and then after that, that is actually the hard work. For me. I can do the design with, my eyes closed. Once I have the vision, but then everything to get to actually manifest that, like, to pull it together, get the design, and then all the work. That's where all the work is after. Yeah, and that's just stuff that clients don't see.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. So this week I had a client contact me. They wanna do a little bit of a renovation in their kitchen. They have a pantry, but they wanna make the pantry bigger and then build a bar on the other side. So, they had a contractor come, I wanna say 3 months ago,
Okay.
and, like, basically tape out on the floor where the new pantry would be,
Oh, I see.
gonna make bigger.
Okay.
And then he gave them a price and he kind of like ghosted them like for 3 months, so they haven't moved forward with anything, so she
Right.
called me and she's like, "Can you just, you know, do everything, get the contractor and design it for me?" So that's kind of where we're at, but I went to the house this weekend to look at it, and I'm looking on the floor of where the contractor taped out the new pantry,
Right.
and it's basically where the wall would be is too close to where the kitchen islands is. So, I'm like, "Well, I'm kind of glad the contractor ghosted you because if they would have built this wall here, you have, like, 30
Right.
inches of walkway between the end of your island and where this wall is gonna be. That's
Right.
not gonna work."
Yeah.
But these are the details that the designer has input on and will catch, because the client is just saying, "I want this pantry to be as big as I can make it," and
Right.
the contractor's like, "Sure, I can go out to here."
Right.
I mean, you can't have a 30-inch walkway in a kitchen.
It's tight. I mean, I've done it, but it's,
Because on this island,
yeah,
the
the
end of
chair.
the island, there's cabinets. So you need to be able to stand there and open the
Open the
cabinet.
cabinet, yeah.
Oh, is like no, I was like, "No way." I
I
said,
mean,
"This is."
there's compromises, but then there's also, like, just dumb like, just plain sense. Like, there's things that you're like, "Okay, you're gonna have to compromise on this place." on that, but then there are other places I'm like, "That's just friggin' dumb to do it like that."
Like, for code and for resale, like, I don't know why that would have even been suggested, but
Yeah,
that's what I was dealing with this weekend, so now I
right,
have to redesign the whole thing and configure it better.
right. But that's the fun part because, what I find is that I've got this helping this she has plans already from the architect, and so now it's, creating it, putting the design elements on top. But she's only has plans. Doesn't have the contract or anything yet, which is great because 'cause I'm looking at the plans and I'm thinking, "Hmm, we need to tweak this a little bit." Because from what I'm hearing and from our time spent together in this conversation, I believe this yes, on paper, it looks good. Oh, you have this, you have that. But honestly, when I'm looking at it, I don't think it's going to best meet your needs. Like there's some changes that we can make now that are going to really improve this project. Not that the plans are bad. It's just that I don't know. Maybe it's me. I feel like as an interior designer, and I've worked with, but I spend so much time actually just getting to know my clients.
Well, you have to.
Like when I do initial design consultation, for instance, I'm spending like more than 80% of that time just listening to, okay, what do you want? What do you need? And trying to understand exactly how this is going to function in order to, like make good suggestions. Even at that point, like, oh, okay. And if they've come already with, okay, so the design, this is what we're doing, or it's half done, now it's too late to make those changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, if we had only been doing this a little sooner, that would be nice.
Yeah. You wanna definitely have those conversations with the client before the architect starts drawing plans,
Yeah.
really.
Well, I got pulled in after the architect. She had some plans, and I'm just reaching out to the architect now to say, hey, can we do some tweaking on this? And she was like, I already talked to her a little bit about, some of the ideas,
Yeah,
but it's not like I want to step all over his plans. It's just
but
that,
there has to be several rounds of revisions on architectural plans.
well, he has done, he
Oh,
has
he's
done it.
done them with her a few
He's,
times
yeah, yeah.
already?
And I'm
Alright.
like,
Well, time for one more.
we just tweak it a little bit. I mean, he has some good ideas in there.
Yeah.
But it's like the architect is great at kind of creating all the boxes and how they all like the way it goes, but in terms of internal space planning, doesn't always work out. Like he's got a table offset and at the end of the kitchen. I'm like, yeah, but between the table and this chair, which isn't even pulled out like, on the plan, he's got four chairs tucked on the table. I'm like, between the table and the wall, there's 24 inches.
Yeah, so the chair's gonna hit the wall when you
Well,
pull it.
you can't even pull the chair out in order to, like, get in, and so
Yeah.
then it's sort of like a peninsula table, like, it's one edge is against the window wall, and then, like, 4 chairs, I'm like, "Yeah, but how do you get to the inside chair easily? Or out if you have 4 people like that?" Doesn't make any sense to me, and yeah, it looks good on his paper. "Oh, look, we got a table here and 4 chairs," and I'm like, "Yep, they're not usable."
Contractor that wanted to put a wall in front of the islands with the you can't open the cabinets.
Yeah. So, yeah, so when like, I find when working with contractors or, it really depends how I get started. It's like,
It's a
okay,
team effort. Everyone has their specialty, architect,
absolutely.
contractor, and the designer, and all
Right.
three need to be working together. You can't be doing a huge whole house renovation or building a house from scratch and not have a designer, a contractor, and an architect. You need all three. You need to budget for those expenses because otherwise you're just going to make a lot of mistakes along the way and it'll be a lot more expensive to fix. So invest the money up front and do it the right way. That's always the best advice.
And then not even just the expense and the money to fix, but it's also like you stop lo you s just you lose some opportunity to, elevate your design and your space, right? When you miss one of those crucial team members. us in particular, not that I'm being, but seriously, it's almost like, oh, right.
but it's not. The
Yeah.
designer is the driving force behind the whole project, really. A mid-luxury level project. I mean, if you're
Right.
doing a flip, it doesn't matter, that's
Well,
different.
even a flip, oh my god. I have a talk that I do for, real estate investors, etcetera, and it's really talking about why the designer is so important even in a flip, even if you
It
can
is,
get
but they don't wanna pay.
they don't wanna pay. But
Like,
even if
when
you
you're
could get them
flipping,
to
they don't
come
wanna pay
in
they
to
should, but they don't.
to consult, because I have a whole thing with all these pictures of, like, just dumb design. I wouldn't even call them design, but just dumb ideas. Stove in the middle of the kitchen with a little, like, knee wall around it.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just showing them, like, yeah, the contractor is great at what he does, but that's what he doesn't do is the design. So, I've started a podcast. I drop it every other week on Monday.
You've had contractors on?
Yeah, I have contractors on it. It's on YouTube on my channel, Risha Walden Interiors. I just did an interview with one of the contractors, and it'll be out in a few weeks. So there's so many deep conversations I can have with contractors, because it's really thing, and they're in agreement. I have found that the contractors are in agreement that they don't want to do the design, but they are afraid that if they bring in a designer, it's going to add the cost, and then the client isn't going to sign on.
Mm,
And so, but
interesting.
so they're willing to say, okay, well, I'll just kind of oversee it. But obviously, the bigger the job, the more they have to oversee.
Right.
And that's time for them that is being utilized in ways that is not to their best ability. And so it's also educating contractors. Like, I know I need a contractor. I'm not going to pick up a friggin' hammer and start building things. Like, that's just crazy. Yes, actually, I'm actually very handy, and I do fix a lot of stuff in my house. But because I grew up like with my dad, and he, you know, handymans, I learned a lot. But that being said, that is not where my time is best spent. So yes, you have to hire a contractor if you
So
don't
is
work.
the contractor putting a fee in there for him to spend all this time doing
Well, that's
business?
it.
That's
I
what I
think
wanna know.
no, he's not, but he's assuming that, okay, here, I'll just give the list to the client, and the client's going to pick, go here. I'll send him here for that, and here for this, and there for that. But what happens is when you get here for this, and here for that, and that for this, what happens is you don't get a cohesive,
No.
detailed design, because you have one person picking the backsplash, one person on the countertops, another person on the cabinets, another place for the hardware. I mean, I go to all these places.
Yeah.
I don't go to just one place and get the backsplash countertop. Like, in designing a kitchen, there's got to be like minimum like 8 different vendors that I'll use in designing a kitchen for different pieces, depending on what the kitchen is, and there could be even more depending on how detailed it is, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but how do all those people, if you're doing that, how do like even 3 or 4 people talk to say, okay, that brings it together? And I find that it's like becomes podge. Like,
1,000%. 1,000%.
I'll bring all the pieces together, and then I'm fiddling around like, "Oh, you know what? This isn't quite working. Pull that out, pull this in." You know, it's moving part puzzle pieces.
Exactly. Because we're
Yeah.
perfectionists like that.
We're professionals. We're professionals. Yeah, we are perfectionists, and we're professionals. And it is about the
And we
details.
wanna find the exact right thing, whether it's the countertop or the style of door on the cabinets, like the lighting, there's a lot that goes into it. You can't just go into Home Depot and pick a light, which is what the contractors tell us.
Well, hence why we have those nipple light, right? So I was at a client's place this weekend, um, or they signed up, which was great. We were their primary suite, and then they have a landing off the primary suite, which we're going to work on as well. But they were like, we also want to get some lighting here, and it's an open loft that looks down to the living room. And so they have like 4 nipple lights on that loft. They're like, "We need lighting for everyone." And I'm like, "No, you don't. You need to convert those 3 to recess lighting because you can't have like masses amount of different kinds, like massive amount of like it, and it also depends on the style. They have a very simple bohemian organic style. It doesn't call for, it doesn't call for that layered kind of Victorian, old, more traditional kind of lighting. All the lighting in this home is just a builder grade, which is
Yeah.
kind of
No.
a waste of money. And those, well, the boob lights or whatever you want to call them. What do you call them? Boob lights?
Well, I don't
Can we
call
say
them
that?
that, but that's funny.
You've never heard that?
No.
Really?
Yeah. Oh,
You know what I'm talking about, though, right?
yes.
What do you call them over there? What do you call them down there in Florida?
I don't know. Not that.
Okay, well, you'll look at the light differently now.
I certainly will.
That's on the, yeah.
You don't want to have those.
Seriously, just put in a recess. If that's what you're gonna do, put in a recess light. Be done with it because those things are just. And then we go downstairs. They're like, well, we'd like to maybe because the staircase. I'm gonna get a new light. And they're like, well, maybe we could. The main entry now is open, and then they're looking the dining room, and there's like another 3 boob lights downstairs.
Oh my God.
I'm like, we got rid of those. You don't need all those. Like, we want a beautiful light that is centered in the foyer, not another something weird over there, another one tucked under. No, 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 no. I'm like, don't worry. Put in the light. Well, I love lighting. I love lighting. We'll get some good pieces. So yeah, so I'm working on that. But they haven't started with the contractor. They didn't start with the contract. They started with me. So doing the whole primary suite, yeah, with the bath and everything like that is going to be really great because we can again. I think we always talk about this, but you know, I can actually get a quote. I'm not just getting it. I mean, I gave them estimate. I'm like, this is a minimum that you're going to have to spend on this.
Yeah. Well, like this pantry project that I went to the other day with the bar and all that, I didn't even ask her what her budget was because I'll tell her what it's going to, like what it's going to be based on everything that she wants.
Right.
Like, because I'm sure whatever that contractor told her,
Right.
it doesn't include half of the things that she needs.
So do you like for me, I have a numbers for based on the size of the room, historically, what it's going to cost in order to
Yeah, like
brainstorm.
yeah,
Do you have
from
those
the
conversations?
first meeting,
Yeah.
like based on what the project is, I always have a number in my head of what I think it's going to be.
Right.
And then once we start laying it out and getting the costs, it's usually pretty close on
Right.
from my initial.
Yeah.
But let's see.
I can always do more though. I can always spend
100%. Yeah, 100%. And sometimes like the initial number, like it seems when you tell them it may seem like a lot, but when you break down everything that's involved,
Yeah.
it's really not.
Well,
Like
that-
even the construction part, I'm like, okay, we have to demo this wall, we have to
yeah.
demo the floor, we have to install a new floor, run the electrical, like that's what I started doing too, is really breaking everything down in all the steps and then putting the number. This way they could see, because they think it's like, oh, we're just going to take this wall down and move it. Doesn't seem like a big project, but there's like 10 things that got to go into it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Doing
Yeah.
that, and then when you break it down like that and then you put the number, then it's like, oh, wow, okay, I could kind of see where the cost is going. Because sometimes I feel like the bids are like, just don't have a lot of information. And it just has like big costs and they can't really see like where the costs are going.
Well, I always have that conversation right at the beginning, like the initial.
Yeah.
Like where and if it's like somebody said the confidence, that's great advice for the business, let the client tell you what they want, then break down the pricing. And that's exactly what I didn't used to do that. It'd be like, okay, so what are you looking at? Oh, you're saying 20,000 for bathroom. Okay, so tell me, how does that work?
Yeah,
Tell me
because
how
they
many.
have no idea. People are picking numbers out of the air.
Like, they
Like,
have an idea, they got it from somewhere, that the bathroom reno probably got it from HGTV, but we're not telling names, right? And they think that it's gonna be done in an hour, like, but I'm like, "Let's break that down. How does that work?" Because particularly in a bathroom and a kitchen. Now, okay, other rooms, you don't need to have the sofa and the chair and the coffee table. You can do lots of different like layouts based on the client's lifestyle, right? But in a kitchen, you can't say, well, I just won't do the sink or the fridge. I mean, or the bathroom. "Oh, forget the toilet today because we're just going to cut that out because, no, you need all those elements. So if you if you don't have them, you haven't got a bathroom, you haven't got a kitchen.
right. So, yeah, that's why I like to give them the costs. And I think somebody, yeah, because I would always ask, like, in the beginning, like, "Oh, what's your budget?" But then I realized, like, they don't know. Like,
Right.
I'm the professional, I'm the expert. I need to tell them realistically, based on listening to everything that they want, this is what it's gonna cost to get what you want, you know?
Right. I hear you about not asking the budget, but what I do say prior to meeting them is, um, just have especially when it's a couple. I'm like, make sure we have a conversation, and when we meet, just have a number of what you're thinking for investment purposes. And it doesn't, like, you don't have to worry about it being right. You're not right or wrong. I just need to know where
But
you,
do they give you a number?
yeah, where you think of landing. Then they give me a number.
Because every time I used to ask, they would be like, "I don't know, we really don't know." So, I
Right.
feel like I
Even
never
if they
get
don't
an
know.
accurate number.
Right. I mean, even if they don't know, then I have to have an idea of, like, what they're thinking, because they know. Nobody reaches out saying, "I'm gonna buy a car, but I don't know what I'm gonna spend." That never happens. People don't reach out and say, "Okay, I'm gonna buy a new outfit. What am I gonna spend?" They're already thinking, "I'm gonna get, I need some new jeans. Probably that's like $75, or it's $200, or it's $750." Nobody is going and buying something without an idea. They're like, "Well, we're thinking about a redoing a kitchen. We have no idea what it costs, but, we're thinking probably around 20 grand." Okay, that's okay. So let's break that down. Like, how did you get to 20 grand, or what makes you think it's 20 grand? And I break
I
it
can
down
get a
because,
kitchen for 20 grand.
yeah, I mean, you can,
Yeah,
you can do it. That means that you're doing the work.
yeah,
It's happening over a longer period of time because what you're doing is looking for the deal. Like,
yeah, you're using stock cabinet, it's a totally different kind of project.
right.
Yeah,
But you also have to like, it may only have cost you 20,000, but you have to take into account that the amount of time that it took you to do that, what was that cost factor? And you don't put it in the price, because you doing the work, like, if you're not a handyman, or, even if you are, but you have a full-time job and you have kids and stuff, you're doing the work. Wouldn't it be better for you to go out, do your own work, make more money over there, and have somebody pay for it, so that you can collapse the amount of time that it actually takes to get this project done, so that you're not out of a dishwasher, for instance, for 6 months, and that you're like, you know, you don't have a kitchen, so now you're actually ordering out more, and that's gonna that costs you, like, instead of what, you're ordering out once a week, now you're ordering out 5 days a week. That's
yeah, and
expensive.
living in a mess.
And living in a mess for 6 months, when if you had just spent, like, really known the number and said, "Okay, what I'm gonna do is have it done so that it could take 4 to 6 weeks, not 6 months." I mean, there's that cost that, you can't calculate. There's not a number to it. Is that really worth it in your life to do that? I mean, that's really stressful. No kitchen, no bathroom.
Yeah,
Those are you can go without a living room, sleep on a mattress on the floor, but the other pieces, that will be stressful on your relationship, in your life. Like, you're not gonna enjoy this process. That's what I think.
I agree. So that's a good note to end on, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, we can talk about that for days.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you again next Tuesday for our design tea, and we'll see what we're going to talk about next week. Thank you.